Our story begins in the heart of Wells Valley, a small and secluded village where nothing bad ever happens. One morning, the villagers of Wells Valley woke up to the terrifyingly terrible news that a mysterious killer was on the loose. This news had shocked all villagers and forced them to believe that they needed to stay indoors to be safe. They felt that it was now dangerous to be roaming the streets freely and were absolutely petrified of what would happen to them if they were to leave the house, particularly on a full moon. However, there was one person who thought differently and chose to stand out from the crowd. Clara, a young girl aged 12, who didn't have many fears at all and ultimately chose not to believe that this rumour was true. This is Clara. She too read the headline of Wells Valley's local newspaper that day and laughed. The other children often teased her for being so ridiculous and strange. She decided that she wanted to show her village that they were in fact wrong and prove to them how brave and strong she really was by searching for this so-called killer. Since school was clearly cancelled and everyone was indoors, she decided to set off into the woods. After a short walk, she finally reached the edge of the woods and entered it, exploring its beautiful scenery. Suddenly, she happened to stumble across a strange spill of something on the floor. Oh dear, it was blood. Nothing unusual though, she thought to herself. After discovering this, she then began to grow hungry, so she knew it was time to go home. The next day, Clara decided to make her way to the forest for the second time. As she made her way through the depths of the forest, she stumbled across some oddly shaped footprints, somewhat similar to those of a wolf perhaps. But as before, she thought nothing of it and again was looking forward to some delicious dinner, so she went home. The sun set that night as usual, and morning came soon after. On the third day, Clara grew even more excited to go and explore the forest. She reached the edge of it and went deeper than she'd ever been before. After a while, she came across what looked like a dead body lying on the ground in front of her. But as she always did, she took no notice and didn't believe it to be anything but normal. And so Clara went on. However, as she continued to explore, her surroundings began to grow darker and darker, and she started to notice a large shadow going over her. And as she turned around and looked up, she saw the full moon, and then out from behind a tree pounced. And that was the end of Clara. The very next morning, the entirety of Wells Valley had heard about Clara's death. It was all over the local newspapers. So after all, it was true. There was a killer. But I guess Clara just didn't listen. And so the villagers remained in their homes, and Wells Valley was never seen in the same way that it once was. It was now unsafe and menacing, and no one was to ever leave their house on a full moon again.